Imagine an ancient city, vibrant and ever-expanding, where life pulsed with bustling streets, markets filled with exotic goods, and public baths were the center of social life. This was Rome, the heart of the Roman Empire, which thrived on organization and engineering. But there is one essential detail that many do not realize. For more than 4 centuries after its founding, Rome lived without an aqueduct system. And yet, it was able to grow and consolidate itself as a power. For those first 441 years, the population depended on the Tiber River, hand-dug wells, and cisterns that collected rainwater. But the simplicity of this system soon showed its limitations. As more people migrated to Rome and the cities of the empire expanded, natural resources began to become insufficient. The water of the Tiber, the main source for the Romans, became increasingly polluted as a result of increased human activity and waste disposal. It was only a matter of time before dependence on this rudimentary water supply system became an unsustainable problem. Imagine the scene. In a modest home, a family carefully collects rainwater in a cistern. Every drop is precious, but also limited. In a larger home, private wells provide more abundant water, but not as clean as needed. And in poorer areas, residents face long walks to fetch water from the Tiber, competing for space with merchants, farmers, and fishermen. It was in this context that the need for something bigger began to emerge, something that could transform the way cities were supplied. Innovation was on the horizon, but significant challenges still remained to be overcome. As Rome became more populous, the demand for drinking water was not limited to domestic consumption. As Roman civilization advanced, new public spaces emerged, such as the thermal baths and public baths, which became some of the greatest symbols of Roman culture. These spaces not only promoted the habit of hygiene, but also served as meeting and socializing points, a reflection of the sophistication and grandeur of the empire. And the greater the luxury and comfort provided to the elites and the masses, the greater the need to ensure a continuous and reliable supply of water. Now think for a moment. What would it be like to live in a city where an essential resource like water was scarce or of poor quality? How would you, as a Roman citizen, react to the need to find alternatives for something so basic? Share in the comments what you think would have been the greatest challenge for these ancient inhabitants. Your opinion matters, and it is fascinating to imagine what it was like to live in these times of transition. Cisterns were undoubtedly a practical and ingenious solution for smaller homes and less populated cities. Collecting rainwater, carefully stored in underground reservoirs, solved the temporary problem for many families. But for a metropolis like Rome, constantly growing and full of apartment buildings called insulae, this was not enough. Cisterns could not meet the growing need for clean, running water. It was like trying to fill a lake with a small bucket. No matter how much effort you put in, it would never be enough. And it was precisely this growing demand that led Roman leaders to seek more ambitious solutions. Aqueducts emerged as a direct response to these challenges. More than just canals, they became a symbol of innovation, organization, and control over nature. Using an almost imperceptible slope, these systems transported water from sources located several dozen kilometers away using gravity flow. It is impressive to think that, without the use of pumps or modern technology, the Romans managed to create such an efficient and long-lasting system. Did you know that many Roman aqueducts are still standing today, more than 2,000 years after they were built? This is a testament to the genius and quality of the workmanship that went into them. What's more, some modern European cities still rely on sections of the ancient aqueducts for their water supply. Isn't that amazing? If you enjoy historical discoveries like this, tell us, what do you think is the most impressive aspect of this ancient engineering? Your contribution can help to further enrich our exploration of this fascinating subject. But why did the Romans invest so much in such an elaborate solution? The answer lies in the vision and ambition of an empire that sought to dominate not only territories, but also the resources essential to its prosperity. By introducing aqueducts, the Romans created more than just a functional infrastructure. They laid the foundations for a society that valued organization, hygiene, and the well-being of its citizens. This mindset made Rome an example for future generations to follow. So, the next time you turn on the tap and find yourself with clean, abundant water, remember, this comfort we take for granted today has its roots in the ingenuity and hard work of the Romans. Why not reflect on this as we continue to uncover the secrets of this fascinating civilization? You are part of this journey, and your interest helps keep alive the history of one of the greatest empires the world has ever seen. The development of Roman aqueducts was a response to the growing needs of a growing city. But before the iconic arches and monumental structures took shape, the Romans faced challenges that required ingenuity and courage. It all started with a simple but revolutionary idea: to channel water from distant sources and make it accessible to all. This was a decision that would transform not only Rome, but also the way humanity viewed the distribution of resources. Picture the scene. It is the year 312 BC, and the city of Rome is in full swing. Councillor Apio Claudius Sigo, known for his long-term vision, realized that something had to be done. He led the construction of the Aqua Appia, Rome's first aqueduct. This 16-kilometer-long project was designed to collect water from a spring outside the city and bring it directly to the heart of the city. Much of this route was underground, a strategic detail that protected the system from possible enemy attacks. This first step was not only functional, it was also an act of political affirmation. Rome showed the world that it was willing to lead, both in innovation and ambition. There is a fascinating detail about the Aqua Appia. Despite being the oldest, it already had impressive technical solutions. The constant and precise slope of the canal allowed the water to flow without interruptions, a simple idea, but extremely complex to execute. Errors in this calculation could compromise the entire system. Furthermore, the use of local materials in the construction showed a concern for efficiency and sustainability, long before these concepts were widely discussed. Can you imagine what life was like for the workers who built these structures? Many were slaves or indentured servants, working long days under the scorching sun and using rudimentary tools. However, the result of their efforts was a work that transcended time. This story makes us wonder, what would it be like to live in an era where every technological achievement was a giant leap for humanity? As a viewer, can you imagine the importance of these small advances? Leave your thoughts in the comments. It would be interesting to hear what you think of this challenging beginning. Following the success of the Aqua Appia, confidence in aqueduct technology grew exponentially. In 144 BC, the Aqua Marcia became the longest and most ambitious project of its time, collecting water from sources located more than 90 kilometers away. Unlike its predecessor, the Aqua Marcia included elevated sections, supported by arches that spanned valleys and hills. This not only extended the reach of the system, but also added an aesthetic element that impressed both residents and visitors to Rome. There was something almost magical about the image of water flowing through these colossal structures, as if the gods had gifted Rome with a river in the sky. But why were these advances so important? The answer goes beyond functionality. Aqueducts represented the organization and power of the empire. They didn't just meet a basic need. They were a demonstration of how Rome could turn ideas into concrete achievements. Each brick laid symbolized not only physical labor, but also a collective vision of progress. Interestingly, the Romans weren't the first to build aqueducts. Earlier civilizations, such as the Greeks and Egyptians, had already used water transport systems. However, the Romans took this technique to a new level. They perfected the use of cement, introduced settling systems to remove impurities, and planned routes that maximized flow efficiency. It was all part of a larger strategy to ensure that Rome stayed on top. And did you know that even the names of the aqueducts were carefully chosen? The Aqua Marcia, for example, was named after the magistrate who oversaw its construction, Quintus Marcius Rex. This not only celebrated the achievements of its builders, but also perpetuated the memory of their contribution to the greatness of Rome. It is interesting to think how every detail, no matter how small, was designed to tell a story of overcoming obstacles and innovation. As the aqueducts became more sophisticated, so did the need for their maintenance. The work of the water curators was vital to ensuring that the system continued to function. These professionals oversaw the cleaning, checked the slope of the channels, and organized repairs whenever necessary. There were even creative solutions to divert the water while repairs were carried out, demonstrating how ahead of their time the Romans were. When observing all this, it is impossible not to ask, how did the Romans manage to foresee so many details in their constructions? What do you think was the most challenging thing for them? And what can we learn from these monumental works? Your perspective is valuable, and together we can continue to unravel the lessons of a past that still resonates today. Aqua Marcia was not only a milestone in Roman engineering, but also proof that when a society works together towards a common goal, impressive results can be achieved. And believe me, the achievements of the Romans do not stop there. There is much more to these systems that continues to amaze and inspire, inviting us to continue reflecting on how visionary ideas shape the future. Rome's expansion, both in terms of population and territory, brought to light a critical challenge: how to ensure a constant supply of clean water for a rapidly growing metropolis. At first, simple solutions such as the use of the Tiber River, cisterns and wells seemed to meet daily needs. However, over time, these options proved insufficient and often harmful to health. The contamination of the Tiber waters by urban waste and residues transformed what was once a vital source into a risk to the population. With urban growth also came the evolution of housing structures. In a city where insulae, the first apartment buildings, became dominant, it became clear that water supply needed to be scaled up to meet the demands of thousands of residents per block. Cisterns and wells were not only practical for large housing complexes. Limited capacity and frequent contamination problems were barriers that required more sophisticated solutions. It was in this context that the thermal baths and public baths emerged as a social landmark, symbolizing not only luxury but also the need for clean, accessible water. After all, to keep these institutions functioning, considerable volumes of clean water were essential. The answer to this challenge lay in the technical genius of the Romans. With the growing demand for fresh water, Roman engineers decided to look beyond the urban limits. The solution? Transporting water from distant, pure sources directly to the city. The concept behind this system seemed simple, but its execution was a masterpiece of planning and engineering. Each new aqueduct not only increased the amount of water available, he also helped redefine the limits of what Rome could achieve as an advanced society. Let's imagine an ordinary Roman citizen of the time. To him, aqueducts were not just a technical marvel, they were an essential part of daily life. Thanks to these impressive structures, he had access to ornate public fountains, imposing public baths, and the assurance that his community was protected from outbreaks of diseases related to dirty water. And of course, these fountains were not just functional, they were designed to impress. With intricate carvings and grand architectural design, each fountain served as a visual reminder of the power and generosity of Roman rulers. But why did the Romans invest so much in water? Simply because they understood that water was not only a vital resource, but also a demonstration of power and organization. Aqueducts symbolized Rome's ability to control nature and ensure the well-being of its citizens. Imagine what it would be like to live in a time when the sight of water flowing through a fountain was not only beautiful, but also a reminder that you were part of something bigger. And speaking of being part of something bigger, have you ever stopped to think about how access to water changed the history of humanity? The evolution of Rome, from a small town dependent on the Tiber to a metropolis with one of the most sophisticated water systems in history, is a story of innovation, perseverance, and above all, vision of the future. But how did the Romans manage to turn their vision into reality? What challenges did they face when transporting water from sources miles away? Well, let's continue to unravel the secrets of this fascinating story. When we think of a Roman aqueduct, it is natural to imagine the imposing arcades that cut across the horizon, many of which still survive the centuries. However, the true triumph of these systems lies not only in the beauty of their structures, but in the ingenuity and precision of their engineering. Behind every arch, every underground canal, and every distribution tower, there is a story of challenges overcome and innovations that revolutionized the way civilizations managed their water resources. One of the keys to the success of Roman aqueducts was the principle of gravity flow. Although it seems simple in theory, ensuring that water would flow continuously over tens or even hundreds of kilometers required meticulous planning. Each aqueduct was built with a constant slope, often just a few millimeters per meter, ensuring that the water moved naturally without the need for pumps or complex mechanisms. Any error in this calculation could result in stagnation or loss of water, compromising the entire system. To avoid this, engineers used instruments such as the groma and chorobate, tools that allowed precise measurements of the topography. Another notable aspect was the diversity of materials used in construction. The Romans combined traditional techniques with innovations such as the use of opus caementitium, Roman concrete. This material, composed of lime, volcanic ash, and aggregates, not only offered durability, but also the flexibility to shape structures adapted to the terrain. In underground sections, the concrete was reinforced with bricks and stones to ensure resistance to the pressure of the earth. In the case of the arcades, the lightness of the material allowed the construction of tall, elegant columns that spanned valleys and rivers. Maintenance was also a constant concern. Each aqueduct had multiple inspection chambers along its route, allowing water curators to monitor the flow and carry out repairs when necessary. These chambers were equipped with drainage systems to prevent the accumulation of sediment and obstructions. In addition, at strategic points, decantation tanks separated impurities before the water reached urban areas, ensuring the purity of the resource. And what about the arcades? Those structures that defied gravity and time. In some cases, such as the Aqua Claudia, the arcades reached impressive heights, allowing water to cross uneven terrain without losing any gradient. Each arch was designed to distribute weight evenly, using mathematical principles that were advanced for the time. These structures not only served their practical purpose, but also served as a testament to the greatness of Rome. Walking beneath one of these arcades must have been a breathtaking experience, a constant reminder of human ingenuity and the power of the empire. However, challenges were constant. In addition to planning errors, engineers faced natural difficulties, such as mountainous terrain, rivers, and unstable soils. Overcoming these obstacles often required long detours or hand-dug tunnels. In earthquake-prone regions, additional structures were built to absorb the impacts and protect the channels. These challenges, far from discouraging the Romans, only reinforced their determination to transform the environment to their advantage. Now, imagine yourself in the shoes of a Roman worker, digging tunnels or erecting arches under the heat of the Mediterranean sun. Think of the satisfaction of seeing the project take shape, knowing that it would not only meet the needs of your generation, but would also become a legacy for centuries to come. This is the magic of aqueducts. They were not just practical solutions, but a testament to the human capacity to dream big and achieve the impossible. And if you had the opportunity to witness one of these works under construction, what would you feel? As you walk through these structures, whether they are underground tunnels or arches that rise against the sky, it is impossible not to ask yourself, how did the Romans manage to build something so incredible? What secrets were behind their tools, methods, and organization? Get ready to discover more about this fascinating story and understand how their genius shaped the world we know today. As we approach the end of this fascinating journey, it is worth highlighting the lasting impact that Roman aqueducts had on civilization and how their legacy transcends the barriers of time. More than mere feats of engineering, they symbolized the pinnacle of human capacity to transform the environment to improve the quality of life. What the Romans built was not just a water supply system, but a monument to technical and cultural advancement. At the height of the Roman Empire, 11 aqueducts supplied the capital with an impressive amount of water, around 1 million cubic meters per day. This volume was enough to serve a population of over 1 million people. This water not only quenched thirst, but also promoted leisure, hygiene, and public health. The baths, such as those of Caracalla and Diocletian, were veritable aquatic palaces where rich and poor gathered to bathe, socialize, and even discuss politics. Imagine the grandeur of entering one of these baths with their stunning mosaics and imposing columns, while the water flowed ceaselessly thanks to the ingenuity of the aqueducts. In addition to the baths, the public fountains, known as castella, were a spectacle in themselves. Each one was decorated with intricate sculptures and symbolized the generosity and power of the emperor. Some, such as the famous Trevi Fountain, are still iconic landmarks, testifying to the grandeur of the Roman water supply systems. It is curious to think that, while today we throw coins into the fountain to make wishes come true, in Roman times, these structures represented a collective wish fulfilled: access to clean, reliable water. But aqueducts were not just an urban luxury. Their influence extended to rural areas and small towns, allowing the irrigation of fields and promoting large-scale agriculture. This agricultural development ensured the food supply for the vast empire, contributing to Roman stability and expansion. Water from the aqueducts also powered industries such as tanneries and mills, showing how these systems impacted every aspect of daily life. Interestingly, the construction and maintenance of aqueducts also created a specific class of workers. The water curators and servi pubblici played a crucial role in ensuring that the system ran smoothly. These roles were highly valued, and Frontinus, the chief administrator of the aqueducts in the 1st century AD, meticulously documented the details of their operation. He not only supervised the construction work, but also combated fraud, such as illegal water diversion, showing how complex it was to manage these systems. The Romans' innovation in aqueduct construction also inspired future generations. In the Middle Ages, many of these systems continued to be used, adapted to the needs of the time. Later, Renaissance engineers studied these structures to develop new methods of water supply. To this day, some European cities use original sections of Roman aqueducts, demonstrating the durability and excellence of their construction. Isn't it incredible to think that something created more than 2 millennia ago still plays a functional role in our modern society? And it doesn't stop there. Aqueducts have also influenced urban architecture and design. The use of arches and careful route planning have inspired engineering projects around the world. From France to Turkey to the Middle East, traces of Roman genius can be found. Every brick and stone tells a story of determination and technical skill, a true tribute to humanity's innovative spirit. Over time, aqueducts have also become symbols of power and identity. Later rulers from different cultures replicated these works to demonstrate their own strength and vision. The construction of large-scale water supply systems became a hallmark of advanced civilizations. Today, when we look at great engineering projects such as dams and canals, we can see the shadow of Roman influence, which continues to inspire us. And now that we have reached the end of this narrative, it is time to reflect on what aqueducts really represent. They are not just cleverly stacked stones. They are a testament to the human capacity to overcome challenges, to dream big, and to create something that benefits generations. They are proof that with determination and ingenuity, we can transform the world around us for the better. So, when you think about Roman aqueducts, don't just admire them as works of the past. Consider how their history echoes in our present and how their lessons can guide us in the future. So, time traveler, what an incredible journey this has been, huh? Now that you know the secret behind Roman aqueducts and how they worked, you realize how much more these constructions are than just stones and water. They carry stories, dreams, and proof that human ingenuity can transform the world. It's as if the Romans had created true arteries that pulsed life throughout the empire. But here's a tip: pay attention. Because what makes these works so incredible is not just the fact that they were built thousands of years ago, but how they continue to inspire modern solutions. Who would have thought that something so old could be so current, huh? Think about how today's cities still depend on water systems and how we can learn from the past to create a better future. Now tell me, what else do you think the Romans knew how to do better than anyone else? Have you ever stopped to imagine how many other curiosities are hidden in time, waiting for us to discover? If you're curious, comment here what else you'd like to learn, and who knows, we might embark on another journey through time together. Oh, and before you go, like this video, share it with someone who loves history and subscribe to the channel. After all, this is just the beginning of the adventures we can unearth together. See you at the next discovery. Or perhaps the next brilliant idea. See you later.